Today on the Captain Cass Laboratory, we are working on a Lemax Grand Carousel that was sent in because apparently the granddaughter stuck her hand in this when it was spinning and now it doesn't spin anymore. So, we got good music. Yeah, it's really tight. She definitely doesn't turn. So probably a broken gear or two. All the lights seem to function. Just like a typical carousel that only has the two lights in the front to illuminate this part of the dome. But before I turn on the camera, I did prep. This was glued on. I popped the glue so I could see the screws in here. So we can try and take the top off just to save a few seconds of time. Also, Mr. Christmas is known for having screws in here, not Lemax, so I wanted to check real fast. And of course, if you take a peek, there are two screws sitting down inside there. So this was glued on. I did pop it off with a small blade screwdriver or flathead. And now we're ready to take these screws off and check in here for the mechanism. I think the mechanism is probably on the bottom, but I could be wrong. I haven't done a lot of Lemax carousels. Mr. Christmas I've done a ton of. But I'm going to start on the top as if this was a Mr. Christmas. And we're going to see what's under the hat. Oh, that screw is really tight. There we go. Take those out. This top may not come off. Because, now that I'm looking close at it, if you see right in here, there's these little gold tabs. These tabs are actually sticking into each of these plastic slats. So, this top may not remove. Everything might be done on the bottom. Alright. Also, I think I found the biggest issue, and I'm going to have to get this top off. Looking close at it, I don't know if you can see that one horse. Its entire mechanism is pulled out of the top, and it's wedged. See how these horses don't really move much? But this one's like on a, you can see it flexes. So, when her hand went in here, it dislodged the mechanism. So it may not have a broken gear, it may just be literally wedged. So, now the question is how do we get the top off to repair that? What I'm doing right now is I'm looking up inside here to see if I see anything that's going to give me any advantage or what might allow me to separate the dome. And now I'm going to try again. I'm going to go on these loose fingers, the ones that have a bigger gap, and see if I can get them to separate enough that maybe I can start to lift the top. Cracking that you might be hearing is the glue. When I look up underneath, there is a glue line that goes all the way around, probably to hold on this fascia. since this fascia keeps it stable with these 4 uprights. So I think the popping sound is the glue starting to separate, because nothing up top is cracking. And Lemax is known for using a lot of glue. I'm not gonna lie, they're really good at gluing stuff. So maybe we'll just go around the whole thing, see if we can separate some of this glue, see if it frees up the top enough to pop it out. Also can see, while doing this, these red panels are separate from these gold panels, and they're pressed together and glued. And I thought maybe it's just one big piece they painted, but there's actually a seam. There's a seam here and here and here, so it's like every 2. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle. Alright, I think I've gone almost all the way around. Now let's see if I can get the top to flex out of these little teeth. Just to, for my peace of mind, before I go any further on separating the top, I'm going to double check the bottom, just to ensure that I'm not going about this 100% wrong. Now on the bottom, you got 5 feet, which have been removed, and then there's 5 screws. And you have a screw here, and I'm assuming under this sticker, there's probably another set of, at least another screw, maybe 2. This is that warning sticker that's in 5-6 languages about how it doesn't interfere with, you know, electronic devices or pacemakers. Yeah, so there's another screw there, so there's gonna be another screw in this corner as well. We'll see if we need to take these center ones out. I'm just gonna try these outer ones to see if it'll help separate this base. They're kind of recessed in here a little way, and they're Phillips. So you're gonna need a thin, longer Phillips screwdriver if you want to take these out, or if you need to take these out, I guess I should say. A couple of those screws are just stuck up inside. Alright, so I don't have enough movement on the outer screws, so I am now going to take out the 4 inner screws. Let me see if I can get these screws out of their holes. So, the bottom center, we have the speaker. We have the blob chip and a very basic circuit board, at least on the side you can see. Here's the speaker wire. This is most likely the motor wire. And then these wires here are for the, probably the lighting. This is just the cover that clips in to cover the wires. It's not glued in. It's got two fingers. One finger slides under here, the other finger slides under here where this notch is. So if you unscrew this, it's going to fall out. It's not broke. It's just a design. Now, inside here, we also have 3 screws that hold the center axle in. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to look down the center. I need a bright light to see if I can see anything inside the middle there. So I am just going to use my cell phone's flashlight. So a little bit of glue around these posts for this top plate, which is what those screws were going into. And I can't see anything down the hole other than the wire goes up inside here and then abruptly makes a turn. So I'm not sure exactly what it's for, unless it's for these 2 lights. This one kind of has me stumped on where they hid everything. So I can't see it in the bottom, and I don't see it in the top. So where, oh where are you hiding all the good parts? Ooh, that's tough on the fingernails. I see that they have a tongue and groove around each of these columns for this outer ring I'm trying to separate, which is those 5 screws. That's what they hold in. And they put a dab of glue on each one of these tongue and groove pieces. Again, they don't want you to work on it, so they're not going to make it easy. So I am trying. That cracking sound when I lift it is me trying to, it's breaking the glue on the tongue and groove. This one doesn't want to separate, and neither does this one. Got one side to break free. Now, let's see if I can get the other side. Once I get it popped up, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Got it. So, you can see see right in here, there's a kind of a tongue and groove spot. And now that I broke the glue free, you can see I can lift the base or the platform. So I can try and look underneath this rotating deck, see if that's where the components are. I mean, I see all the lights, they're great and all, but I need to see, I need to find the motor, the gearbox, and everything else that makes this thing rotate. And there is nothing inside here. It all runs from the top. It's going to be really hard for you all to see with the camera. But the only thing in here is the posts, and then there is a groove for this plate to sit on. So now we know you don't have to take this bottom off, and I can just put a dab of glue on each one of these once I'm done to keep this from shifting if you turn it upside down. So it looks like everything's up here. So I need to figure out how to get this top piece off. So what I'm going to do right now, just to, one of those screws finally fell out, to make life easy, and I'm going to put a screw back in this bottom section so it stops flopping on me, so it doesn't pull on the wires that are attached to the circuit board. So I have a funny feeling I might have to unplug something when I remove the top. So now that bottom isn't dangling. Now let's get back to this dome and see what I'm missing. I do see there are some clips around the edges on the inside. So there is a ton of them. There's two there. One, two, there's a clip every other panel. And I see them. So we got the little fingers here, and then there's clips on the bottom. So I'm going to use a small flathead screwdriver, and I'm going to see if I start popping a couple of these clips, if it starts making the top more accessible. So if I can get in here to do it. It's kind of a really bad angle. Slightly bigger one. Definitely not as easy as Mr. Christmas. Mr. Christmas, their carousels come apart relatively easy. This one does not. Oh, wait a second. I might have just figured it out. Let me pop this back on. So this one was broken when I got it, but if I pull, it's trying to separate, but it's attached at these bottoms. And I'm wondering if these bottoms slide up and that's why there's glue in here, is because the tongue and groove is to remove the 4 upright posts. So the post does move. It is glued, so we're going to apply a little heat. I'm going to go to all 4 posts, and, well, I'll go to the 3 that are still attached. Let that warm up for a second. That one just broke free and it slides right up. So 2 of the 4. And then I'm going to pull the bottom back off after I get these glue joints separated. And I'm going to remove the 3 screws out of the bottom center and see if that helps. Three of them down. That was a lot harder. That one they got glue deeper inside where I couldn't get with the heat gun without distorting this. So 3 of them are now separated. So this is the last one right here. Sorry it was off camera. I had to use the edge of the bench to counterlever my screwdriver, because when I was pulling it down, I was just smacking the deck of my bench. So I'm heating up on both sides of the shaft and a little bit on the bottom to try and break the glue free without melting the plastic or the paint. I have to do the same thing. I'm going to have to take it to the edge so I can bend my screwdriver down. Need the smaller screwdriver again. Yeah. They really do not want you into these things. Well, she's free from the bottom, but she's not free. She's free from this big red ring, but she's not free from the green ring. So now I'm trying to slowly walk it up and see if I can get it to break free of the green. Once I figure it out, it'll be really easy for anybody else that needs to open this one. those 3 screws I talked about a few minutes ago. I'm going to pull those out now. They're not very long, so I cannot imagine what they're screwed into. They're actually really short. It might just be a bushing, or it could actually be the whole mechanism. We're going to find out here in just a moment. Actually, we just unhook the speaker and get it out of the way, so it's not pestering anybody here. So there's one. Two. Now we just need to get this other one to pop that's still stuck to the green. I'm going to have to probably heat it up a little more. But now this whole deck lifts. So the key is to separate these 4 uprights. So I'm going to get this thing warm again. If you're going to do this, you might want to do this in a well-ventilated area, because this thing stinks. The smell of the melting glue and plastic is really, really noxious. The right side separated, now I'm trying to get the left side to separate so I can get this thing to lift. Glued this one did a really good job on this one side. I don't know if you heard the buzzing. Sorry about that. There's a set of speakers that are on that I leaned on the connection. everything is definitely in the top, but I'm just not sure how to get the top off. So here's the inside of the bottom, and there's nothing in there.
Looks, there we go. Now it's coming apart. So yeah, I definitely need to get this last one to separate, and it does not want to. I keep leaning on that cord. Let's get it out of the way. There we go. Alright, so I got 3 of the 4. Will that give you enough room to get the barrel out, or the drum? There's another circuit board on the top. Definitely important to try and get these to separate. Let's see. So, that was a lot of fun. If you're still watching, sorry for how long that took. So, this cord goes all the way down to the bottom, and that's what's pulling. And the top here is a circuit board that has just connectors for the lights and stuff. So that means the driving mechanism is under this white disc, which is held on with 3 screws. So, to take this thing apart, you'll have to remove the center 4 screws, not the outer 5. And then you're going to have to break the glue joint on the 4 uprights, or you just break the 4 uprights and glue them back on. Whatever works the easiest for you. And there is the mechanisms, and there's the one that doesn't work, because it's bent and broke. So it clips in, and the reason it doesn't work is the clip's broke. The reason it falls out. So, oh, and that is missing a whole bunch of teeth. So we got a broken clip, which keeps this horse centered. And then this gear right here, she's missing a lot of teeth. So there's 3 more screws that hold on this top plate. And now we have access to the motor and transmission assembly. I'm just going to check here, everything looks good. I'm going to clean this and put a dab of super glue on it, since it's got a broken tooth, and it's very important that it stays upright since it bent when it got wedged. And that would explain the piece of plastic that fell out of it when I took it out of the box. That would be the finger. I'll show you that in a few moments.
But here's the gearbox. And I don't know if you can see, gear that's hanging out the sides, missing a little bit of teeth. And to open that up is, oh, and that's the hard to find gear too. Ooh. That's that stepper gear I was telling you about, where the outer teeth are small and the inner teeth are big. I mentioned it on the last video I did with the Raven's Manor. It's kind of a, it's the only gear I cannot find out of every gear in these things. There we go. I'll do some more research, see if I can locate these gears again, since I need a few of them. Case in point, here's one. I don't have any more parts houses that use that gear. Every house I've repaired that required that gear has exhausted my supply of parts houses. But I'm going to show you. Probably just zoom in instead of trying to lift this pile up. Right where the zoom is. Focus. There you go, ish. So you can see the little clips. And you can see that this one's broke and that one's intact. Hopefully it's clearer than it is on my viewfinder. But that's why this had fallen through. Now, if you probably have to zoom out a little bit for this one. Always do that. Always go the wrong way. This one's bent. So, just trying to see if I could drop it out enough to try and rebend the horse. So the answer is no. So can I bend it while it's in here? Try and straighten it back up. The answer is yes. So alright, back to normal viewing positions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this back through, because I don't know if you can see the shininess in here. That's grease. Like the shininess in here. That's grease. There's a lot of grease in this thing. It's just covered in it. So I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol. I use 99%. You've probably seen it in other videos if you watch any of the other videos, but just in case, there you go. Isopropyl alcohol, 99%. And I'm going to remove the grease from around in here. Then I'm going to push this in, and I'm going to put a little bit of super glue right here on this finger that's missing, so it anchors this side and it's less likely to fall out and get caught in the mechanism. So what I'm thinking probably happened is when she put her hand in here, there's enough torque with this gear transfer, because this one is what transfers most of the torque from the itty bitty teeth to the big teeth, and it tried to keep going, and her hand bent this, because if you notice, those broken teeth were pointing out. So either me trying to move this shifted them, but then it stopped. You should have kept going with the teeth pointing out, because the good teeth are still touching the good teeth. But I have a funny feeling that when this broke, it wedged, and the little motor here had enough torque, and the band's still good, that it, well, shredded all the teeth. And of course it shreds all the teeth on this gear, and not this gear, which is readily available. Matter of fact, some of those broken teeth are inside of this gear's tooth. Here's one of them right here. You see that white? That's a broken tooth. So we're going to stop here, and I'm going to see if I can find that there.
And if not, we'll see what we can do. I have an idea. I haven't tried it yet, but I've been watching gear casting on how to cast a gear like that has broken teeth. So, might have to try that if I can't find the gear. I wish I had a better gear to do it with, meaning one that had all of its teeth, but we are going to see what we can do. So, I am going to take this gear and I'm going to do some internet searching. Gotta get all that grease off. I have to mic it and I don't really want grease all over my mic. I'm also going to see if this gear maybe has a marking on it, unlike every other one of these I've pulled out. No, there is no markings on this gear. Nothing. Just like every single one of them I've done before. So, since most gears are in millimeter, so anybody that wants to look for themselves, it is a 7.05 millimeter tall. The outer gear is 20.85 millimeters in diameter. The inner gear is 13.75. The upper gear, or the bottom gear thickness, is 1.45 millimeter, and the top one is about 5.3, 5.29, and then it has a very, very shallow step or buffer right here. Probably they all do so the gear doesn't run flat into a piece of plastic. So, but if anybody out there wants to look themselves, you have the measurements. But I'm going to do some searching. It's usually called a step gear because it steps just like these over here do. We have two-step gears right there. And then we have this big one. And this big one is driven by little gears, and then the big teeth interact with the big teeth right here, which is why the little teeth broke off, because the big teeth have so much more surface area and strength that they can handle the stress. There's other options too. Another option is find a gear that's this size with this tooth pattern and carefully cut off the face of this gear, mate the two of them together and glue them. And in some cases you can even pin them, where you run a couple of drill holes, really small ones, and you put a metal pin in there. And then you either melt the plastic or glue it. And what that does is, if the two want to separate, the metal pins keep it in place. There are a few different ways to try and repair this, besides finding the correct gear. We might have to try one or two, don't know. But I am going to do some research and see what I can find. So we're going to stop the video here. It's already 45 minutes in. And go from there. And hopefully get this thing back up and running and back out to the owner fully functional. Alright, it's back on the laboratory. This is going to be a choppier video. There's going to be a lot of stops while I go do stuff to fix it. Still can't find this gear, and I need it for a piece. The gear casting isn't working as well as I wish it would, so I am going to do the other option I was talking about, cutting the bottom off so I can keep the big teeth and then adhering it to another gear. Now I went through a whole bag of gears and I found one that's the same diameter. It's a hair thicker. I'm not worried about the nose. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind this off flat, as flat as I can, and then I'm going to adhere, basically doing that. I'm going to stick this in. What I'm probably going to do is
leave the nose on here, drill into the big gear, press it in with some glue, and possibly put a couple of wire stakes in. I'll have to see how it goes, but step one, I got to get rid of this gear. So how I'm going to start is I'm going to use a pair of snips, which I just had. This gear is missing teeth, as you can see right there, and I'm just going to trim the edges. Just wear safety goggles when you do this, because that thing went flying. There we go. So I'm just going to trim all the way around it, and then get a drill bit to make that hole fit. The reason I want to do this is if I fill these teeth with glue, super glue, or a hard like this, the clear Gorilla Glue, which sets extremely hard after 24 hours, it's more surface to bond to. But we're going to try that. So that's going to be the next step. So I'm going to get this gear prepped, and then we're going to go from there and see about drilling, tapping, gluing, pinning if necessary, and then seeing if it works in the house. So I'll return once this one's prepped. Alright, I trimmed it, and then this had a little protrusion to lift it. I sanded it down because what I want to do is, this side's recessed a little, the top of the original gear. I'm going to use that to center the drill bit to push this in, and then see if it'll work. Now if I have to sand more of this down to show the teeth through, as you can see I just trimmed it to where it's right up against the teeth. But I figure if I can go this way, because this has got an indentation that'll help center the drill bit, and then drill a shallow hole just enough to push that in, it might work. And if it's still too tall, because there's this plastic with no teeth, I can then sit here and continue sanding it down until I have the teeth showing. So next step is I got to go find a drill bit that is the, you know, approximate diameter of that nose right there to drill that, and then we're going to try it and see what happens. So like I said, if I can't find the gear, we're going to see if we can make one. So be back in a few moments. Alright, I had to go get a power drill because my cordless is at work. If you're going to do this, I would normally put it in my vise, but since that's off camera, I'm going to try it with a pair of mule nose. And we're going to see if we can get this to make a small hole. It's a variable speed drill, so of course I'm not hammering it to prevent it from getting too deep or out of control. I've just barely scratched the surface. I just wanted to see how it's going to fit. Now when you clamp it, don't clamp it too tight, because if you do, you'll break the big teeth. We don't want to do that. Now another option you can do is you can measure the depth of the nose if you're going to do it this way and put a piece of tape on it. I'm just eyeballing it. Just using the bit to clean out the hole and see how it fits. That's why you want to hold it with something, because it just grabbed. And that's probably deep enough. Now the drill bit is a hair smaller than the teeth. So again, I'm just going to use this to clean out the hole. Like so. Sorry, I got bit by a mosquito when I was outside grabbing this drill. So it looks like we should be at a good depth, but this drill bit is apparently one size too small, so it won't fit in. So there's a couple ways to do that now. Is I can go find the next size drill bit, or I can take some of these teeth off. I don't think pressing is going to do anything. I don't think the teeth will flex. No. So I am going to go probably get the next size drill bit just to make life easy. That way I don't have to modify it too much by cutting teeth and stuff. But you're getting the basic idea how this is going. So this is a proof of concept and hopefully it works. But we've now got a centered oversized hole, which is almost the size of that. The reason I'm not really wanting to cut too many of these teeth off is because the teeth are, well, they're in the center. If you cut one too deep or too shallow to make it fit, you might have a wobble. And we don't want to wobble in the gear. So, alright, be back in a moment again after I get the next size bit. We're going to do it again. Like I said, sorry about all the pauses. I'm doing this between the bench and outside, grabbing parts and looking for stuff so we can get this done right. Alright, next size drill bit. It's still a hair tight, but I pressed it together. I didn't put any glue in it yet though, but it doesn't turn. So I'm hoping I can get it back apart so I can put some glue in there. And then I can grab the piece and see if it will fit and work. Then I'm really debating on if we should pin this or not. And pinning it means you drill a couple of like one or two small holes, generally two, opposite sides. So 180 degrees out from each other. And you stick a metal rod, something that's rigid, and you glue it in place. And you try not to go all the way through, so if it breaks free it doesn't fall down, so you want to do it from the top. And what that does is if the glue breaks, that metal rod is supposed to reinforce it. So we're going to be pinning the gear. But I don't know if there's going to be enough force on this to make much of a difference, to be truthful. But that is an option. So first we're going to try it without pinning it and see what happens. First I'm going to do is try and get this thing back apart so I can put some glue in there and then press it back together. Now I got it, when I pushed down, I got it to go about halfway, then I put it in a vise to go the rest of the way, and that's probably where I should have stopped before I did that. But I mean, it does not turn. So this might work. This might replace that gear. So like I said, we're doing a proof of concept, and if it works, I now know how to fix, at least till I find the correct gear, how to fix all these broken ones I have that are sitting here waiting. And then the gear kit is part number from Amazon is the X001 XB0HVX 58 piece JL metal motor DIY model toys gear pack. So it's the one that was sent to me as a gift to help offset all the gears that I use on fixing these. So it's very similar to the one I recommend. Mine just comes in a box, and that one comes in the bag. So there we are at. I'm going to now separate this, get some glue on it, and go get the piece that this goes in, and then we're going to give it a whirl. So I'm going to let it set up though. When I put the glue in it, I'm going to let it sit. I'm not just going to glue it and then get the piece. I'm going to let it sit for a few before I put it in the piece. So that way, in case any of the glue doesn't harden, it doesn't seep down and get stuck on the shaft. Oh, that's another thing. The shaft may not go all the way through. It's a large shaft. That is a large shaft as well, but I think it's one size smaller. So how we fix that is you can get micro drill bits, which you might have seen me use many times in the past. And we find one that's the size of the shaft, and we just drill it straight through. Problem with micro drill bits is they're such a pain to get out of their drill bit cases. So there's the size, and it only goes in till it hits that nose, and then it stops. So you can use a power drill, be careful, or you can use a hand drill or a finger drill like that and drill it straight through. So I got the drill here. Might as well just use this one. The only reason I was able to do this without worrying about it spinning in my hands is I've done it many times before. I didn't have the full power cutting nylon, and I have a lot of grip surface, so I'm not too concerned about this spinning in my hands. Now, if you don't have a variable speed drill, like, you know, where you can do that, then I would recommend holding it with a pair of pliers or gloves, because when this thing spins, it's like little saw teeth. It hurts. So anyway, that's how you make the shaft the correct diameter through both gears. Unless you can find a gear that comes with the same size diameter, which I wasn't fortunate enough that was in the pack, but that's fine. We can modify things. So, all right, I'm gonna pop this thing back apart, put some glue in it, and go grab the carousel that this was in. So, return in a few. Alright, I got the carousel plugged in. I did have to sand that piece off the top. You can see the teeth spinning. It made it too tall so this wouldn't close. So you can tell it's moving. So far so good. There's no load on it, but if I put my finger on the big gear, because that would be the part I glued on, you can see it slows down everything. It's got a lot of torque. So, but proof of concept. This actually might work. Might actually repair this carousel. So now let's put this thing together so it's under a load from the unit. Make sure it spins. So bear with me for a moment while I do some reassembly. Okay. I put it back together. It's not screwed, that's why I'm holding it, and there's no sound because, of course, the speaker's sitting right there. Look at that. She is spinning away. And the horses are going up and down just like they're supposed to. It's got a little bit of a click. I'm not sure what that's from, but I've checked all the gears. They're all good except for, unfortunately, the one that was already broken. But now I just need to reassemble this, re-glue this, and put the rest of the screws in, since of course they're all sitting right here. Plugged a speaker in, the whole nine, but this thing is almost done. So, yeah, apparently you can make a gear. It's a little bit of a process, but it'll be faster in the future, now I know how to do it. So I'm going to turn it off and get this thing back together and show it to you fully functional when it's done. Alright, the Lemax Grand Carousel is done, except for the little rubber feet, which I'll glue those on here in a moment. It's all back together. Let's turn it on. See, the lights are working. We got the lights on the dome, lights around the edge, on the inside. They don't like to be tipped sideways, so I'm not going to do it for long. Alright, so if you own this piece, you need to take it apart to work on it. The majority of it can be done from the top. You don't have to take the bottom off, but you do need to take this out, heat it and pry it, or just pry it off. 2 screws. Remove the 2 screws. You can remove the dome. At that point, once the dome's off, you can remove the screws for the plate that makes the horses go up and down and get to the main drive mechanism. So you don't have to disassemble the whole bottom, which we found out. If you do have to remove the rest of this for some reason, feed the wire, broken wire, something in the bottom's broken, I gotta put the little clip on here, which is right there, but speakers here, main circuit board's here, but there's a wire that goes to the center. So if that wire that goes to the center is damaged, and you can't fish it, you have to peel the sticker back and do the 4 screws, and you might have to remove these outer screws to remove this inner ring. But once you remove the top, you have access to the majority of the drive mechanism. And then, of course, careful, there is that circuit board, the secondary circuit board, that's glued to the top of this dome. So when you pull it off, don't just yank it. You don't want to rip that wire that goes down to, 1, the motor that drives everything, and 2, the bottom where the other circuit board and speaker are. So once you do that, you can then change the belt, change your gear, relubricate it, etc. Now, if that special gear is broken, you can try and cast, you can try and find one, parts house. You can try and do what I did. Find a gear that's the same as the bottom gear that broke, that loses its teeth, and then grind off the other gear and drill and press and glue and put it together. If it's a high torque unit, which this is not, high torque would be like the Roundup or the Ghost Around, where they're spinning and lifting. There's a lot more stress because you have a lot more moving mass, because the mass is on the outer edges, spinning at a faster rate. Plus the lifting is a lot heavier than just rotating in a circle. Then you might want to pin it, and that's where you take a micro drill, drill through 2 holes, maybe 3 if you want, in a triangle or 280 degrees out, and put a piece of solid wire through. Either solid core wire, armature wire, the wire they have for arts and crafts, that bending wire. This lamp that's right here is actually on armature wire inside of some tubing to hold the light up for me. But you don't want to use anything that's braided. It's too flexible. So you need something rigid. But you also can't have it too thick, because then you can ruin the structural integrity of your gear. So you got to find that perfect balance. I would say about 20 to 25% of whatever meat is left on your gear. So if I'm trying to pin, let's say, these 2 gears together, as an example, I would just drill a hole on either side of the smaller gear, so I know that it'll penetrate the bigger gear. And then these gears, which might be hard to see, I'll probably see it on this one better because it's a bigger gear, they already have indentations. So that could be a good point, this gear has it too, to line up a drill bit and then run a piece of wire. And then glue the wire in and make sure the wire isn't proud, so it has to be smooth, flush with your gear so it doesn't catch on any of the other rotating mechanisms inside the unit. But what was wrong with this was that broken gear where it had about 5 teeth that were snapped off of that lower transfer gear, which transferred it from the step down setup to the big teeth that make the actual unit rotate. But it's not that hard to get apart. I did take more apart than needed. Never taken it apart before. Now we know. But if you do have to separate it, you do have to remove these. And most likely they're going to snap right here, like this one did on a couple of them. Well, 2. One was broke when I got it, which is now fixed, and the other 2 broke in the process of trying to pry the bottoms out. They are glued with kind of a super tight glue, where it's a much harder glue than hot glue. So heat and pry carefully, and you can get them up, as you saw what I was doing. It's not always guaranteed, but it's worth a try. Once you get it done, put it all back together, check your lubrication. If it needs lubrication, slap some more in there, like a white lithium grease or a hobby grease. You can get them at hobby stores. It's usually a lithium based grease as well. You can get silicone as well. You can re-lube the tracks. These are plenty lubricated. My fingers were still slimy after working on this because sometimes the soap doesn't break it all down. So the only thing left on this to do is glue the feet on, put it back in the box, and get it back in the mail. So hopefully you learned something on this grand carousel repair. And if you saw the previous video of gear casting, you can see I'm trying to figure out how to fix these units that have that oddball gear that Lemax is not nice enough to tell me where they get it from, and I have searched all over the place to find them, and the one place that makes hobby gears will not make it because it is too, the diameter is not the same as they make. For the amount of teeth, they make it in a bigger diameter. They have one with less teeth, which is a smaller diameter, which does me no good, because if it's not the same diameter, well, it doesn't work. So, there you go. Thanks for watching this one. Till the next one, see you then.